Let's create together a little baby's hat, and the baby's hat that we see in the background is for a newborn. Okay, and what we have here is that we're going to be using the 2-string configuration, and we're going to be doing the twisted stitch looming for this project. What we want to do is we want to start off with our slip stitch, or sorry, our slip knot. So wrapping it around your finger twice, the back or the forward, pulling the back one up again, pulling up. So there's your first stitch, and we're not going to worry about the string because when we do the brim of the hat we're going to be burying that. Now because I'm right-handed, I'm going to be going in a counterclockwise position, and you can see that there's a peg on either side of this knob, and I want to take it, because I am right-handed, I want to take it onto the left side, and I'm going to pull it snug but not tight. So then what we're going to do is that coming from the center, we're going to pull into the center like you see. Going to the next one, I'm going to wrap and come back to the center. I'm going to wrap, come back to the center, wrap, come back to the center, wrap, come back. And so we're going to go all the way around doing this. So I'm going to speed up, and we don't want it too tight, nor do we want it too loose. And I figured I'm going to do red and white Canadian patriotic colors because it's Canada Day coming up in a few days. So going all the way around. And the hats, I don't know if I said, it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to make one. So we're now back at the start again. So what we want to do is just work our way back through the ring and push it down about halfway. Don't go all the way, don't go crazy and push it all the way to the bottom, because you're eventually going to have to move these up over the top of the peg anyway, so there'd be less effort if they're only halfway down. Okay. So what we're going to do now is just go all the way around yet again. So wrapping up to the start one again. So wrap and go all the way. And in this round we want to go back to the peg that is just before where we started, and then we're going to stop. So like a paddle wheel on a boat, I'm just rotating the wheel in my one hand, and I'm wrapping the material with the other. And how do I know when I've gone all the way around? Well, you'll see 2 layers of stitches. You'll see an upper and a bottom. So now what we're going to do is that we're going to just grab this is where the peg we stopped at. So we're going to grab the one that's in the bottom. So I consider the bottom of the ring the bottom, and I work with my rings upside down. I don't know I'm sure everybody else does. I can't see why you would turn it up the other way. So you're going to stick it in, and you're going to position your needle over top and use it like leverage to pull that over. So now what we're going to do is work in a clockwise position. So now I just secured that, so now I'm going to work back. So once you get that first one secured in, the rest of them is just a matter of pulling up, over, and I'm using my thumb to kind of push the stitch back about halfway. I don't want to go crazy and push it all the way to the bottom, because in the next row around we're going to be pulling that row again over the top. And normally when you would do this, you would work this on your lap, not over top of the table like I'm showing you here. Making sure that I'm pulling them back down. Once you get this established, they will push back a little bit easier. This is just a matter of your first line. So this is our first line, and what we want to do is we need to do 6 of these lines, and then what we're going to do on this, we're going to be folding over the edge to create the brim of the hat. And the brim is basically the section of the hat that is thicker at the bottom, just like so. So we're going to be creating that after we've completed line number 6. So on a piece of paper, what you want to do is when we get to the end, you're going to write from 1 to 6, and then 1 to 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so here this is the loose straggler. It basically is a loose end, so you want to pull it toward the center of the ring and let it hold into the center of the ring. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to start off, so on your piece of paper, I'm just going to, here on your piece of paper, I've got line number 1 done, so I'm going to put a check mark with line number 1. Okay, and now what we need to do, in order to stop this crochet from actually being really weird, is that when we go wrapping it around again, we're not going to always want to start and stop at the same peg. And the reason for it, it creates a really ugly seam when you do it. So what you want to do is you want to stop the one peg before it, and I'll show you as I get around. So we're just wrapping this one, and now we're working on line number 2. Okay, so I want to stop here. Okay, so I don't want to finish that one off because that is where we started from, as you can see underneath, right? So if I always start and stop on this peg, then it's going to show an ugly seam. But if I stop the one before, and the next time I start, I'm going to start here, it creates the seam to be on an angle, which is a lot more desirable. So we've just gone around, so I'm just holding it with my finger, grabbing the bottom one again, and again my bottom is the bottom of the ring, like this section, even though it's upside down. And it is the hardest one to pull over because it is the start. Using your hook, just push it over the top. And again, moving everything down. So what I need you to do is go from 1 to 6. So you've already completed line number 1 for me. And so then I need you to complete number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then this video will pick back up once we've completed number 6 on showing you how to make the brim. So I'll see you in a few minutes, which will be just a couple seconds on air time, but I'll just whip this through. It doesn't take very long to do this kind of stuff. Okay, so according to my sheet, I've done 6 rows, and then I want on there from 1 to 15 for the next part of it. So what we need to do is we need to turn this thing around. Okay, and see, this is where I started, and because I stopped the one post before, where this here is stopped here, there will be a difference. So you can see that the seam will actually be going in on an angle, which is what you want. But having said that, now we need to turn the rim up in order to create the nice thick border at the bottom. So how do we do that? Looking at it here, what you want to do is grab the material, and it's going to be kind of rolled in, okay? And so basically you follow the stitch out. So let's start off. I'm going to start off with the one, this one here is where the peg, where it's attached. So it's easier to work going in a clockwise position. And the reason for it, you want to follow your stitch line up. Hopefully you can see that. Do you see how it's a stitch line? And you want to get it toward the very end. And at the very end, because we worked for 2 stitches, you're going to use your little hooky, wherever I put my hook, and you're going to grab the 2 strings that are right on the end of that. And what you want to do is you want to grab it and pull it toward the actual peg and put it right back onto it. Okay, so now that you've done that, the next one that where the 2 are existing will jump out right in front of your face. So now you're just going to grab it and pull it onto the hook. You'll see the next one, grab it and put it onto the hook. Grab it and put it onto the hook. And you're going to work all the way around doing this. And what you're doing essentially is that you're fastening it in so that the next time you go around this is that you will be essentially knitting this brim closed forever and ever, amen, as you go around your next one. So it just kind of looks really cool. You can see the stretching action of the brim taking shape. Okay, now we're coming up to our stragglers, and that's what's really important here. We want to put the stragglers inside of this fold. So as we get closer to here, we want to make sure the straggler ends up inside of this fold so you don't actually see where it is. So keep going, and so you're just going to lie the straggler on top in there so it will happen to be in the fold. Okay. So you're looking. So if you run out of these things on the sides, then you know you've missed one. Okay, so you see how that straggler's now been trapped on the inside? That's exactly what you're looking for. See, and that's the last one. So there you have it. They're going all the way around. So what you want to do now is push it down. So it's got thickness now, so you just have to push down on the material. And it moved it all to the bottom, or bottom and middle. So what we need to do now, this is where we stop. So we're going to wrap it again. So wrap, wrap. Okay, and this will be considered line number 1 of your next 1 to 15. And now the next part I'm going to show you. Okay, so because you are fastening the rim, you're going to want to go all the way around, so don't leave this. Normally you would have left that because that's the one right before the one that you started. You'd normally leave that empty, but on this one I want you to finish all the way around so that there's 3 layers on each one. Now, looking here, this is from the bottom, okay, the brim, so push that over the top. Okay, and grab the bottom one, which is the bottom of the ring like I've explained before. Grab that one and push it over the top. Okay, so now that's fastened. Now I could grab both of these at the same time and push over the top, but sometimes there's a lot of pressure in doing so. So you know what, what's the hurry? It's only going to take you a couple extra seconds. It's just grab the 2, push over, and grab the 2, push over. And using your thumb pushing it back up. So I'm going to go all the way around, and this, remember, this will be line number 1 of your 1 to 15 that I've asked you to write down. 15 I've determined is the magic number for the perfect baby hat as far as doing double and triple and even single string. And all of my baby hats here are going to be going to charity. And it's just a perfect, great example for using up balls of wool that are left over, because knitting does not require a lot of wool. So the next complicated thing is that we're going to continue on your own until you get to line number 15. So this was line number 1 of 15. So next time we go around this thing, so let's go around again. So this is where it's starting on that one. So we want to, our next one is right up. And we're just going to continue to wrap. And as I wrap, then we're going to do the same configuration that we did before. We're going to stop. And not go all the way around, because then you'll get that seam always on the same line, and it'll be very evident, and you will not like it, trust me. Okay, So you're going to leave the last one untouched. So going up, and this will be the start of line number 2. So I need you to go until line number 15. Okay, so the first one we just created, so this will be line number 2. Make sure you keep checking it off on your paper, so you don't lose count. So I'll meet you on line number 15, where we're going to actually join this project together and create the actual top of the hat. Okay, so I'm now on row number 15, and when I go to wrap around this thing, the apparatus, I want to make sure that I don't leave an empty gap like I have been all along between each row. I want to make sure that I fill in the very last. So the last row will have an entire filled out piece, so there will not be any empty pegs left. So let me get there, and I'll pick you up as soon as I get close to the end, where we can start then winding this off, casting it off, and then sewing the top of the hat together shut. Okay, so we're just about finishing up, and I got 4 more left, and this will be the completion of row number 15. Just pushing it down a little bit. And what I need you to do after we get this done is that we need to cut the string that is attaching at this point. Okay, so the whole row of number 15 is done. Okay, and what we need to do is grab this string here and cut it about 18 inches long. So let's cut that. Okay, so now in your little kit that you would have received, this material needle, and basically you want to feed your string through that needle, just like so. And what we want to do is use that needle now to fasten the top of the hat together, and we're going to do it right on the actual spool. So this is where it starts. So you want to go to the next peg, which is right there. So sticking in, you need to go from the bottom of the ring, and I always say the bottom is the actual ring part itself. You need to go in and down. If you go up, it causes the actual string to tangle. So on the very next one, you just want to go in. Okay. And what I would do, because this needle is so cheapy plastic, because it is a Walmart, just kind of grab it right where the string is right there and pull it over the edge. And as you keep going, the string gets looser and looser, and each one gets a little bit looser. And now what you want to do is you want to hold this ring upside down, because you don't want these other strings to be catching into the teeth. Okay, so moving to the next one, just go down, pulling it over, and pulling your string through. Down, pulling it off, and pull your string through. And you're going to keep going all the way around just like so. And there's no point pulling it really tight, because see how you got there? Even if you pull tight, it's not going to pull it off. So don't go carried away by pulling it all tight. We can do that at the very end. So just keep going down and pulling it off. And by using the same string that you were knitting with this thing, you're basically guaranteed that this thing will never unravel with you, because you're using the same string to pull it shut. So it's a really plus that way. And you don't want to be too short on the string too. Like 18 inches is pretty good. It seems like excessive when you're going to see how much you have left over when you actually do pull it tight. But in order to get it off the ring, you do need a longer string, because you're noticing that it's getting shorter and shorter. Okay, we're almost done. Now these needles that they provide you in the packaging are really cheapy, crappy, and so you don't want to put a lot of pressure on those. So if it's too tight, if you haven't mastered your tension, use your hook to also, like if you couldn't get it off, use your hook to help pull that off, because you don't want to bend this needle. and your last one coming off, and in. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside. Okay, so now you end up with a top that looks like so. So what you're going to need to do, putting your finger, this is the starting loop obviously because you can see it going, so grabbing the string, not the needle, just kind of pull towards you. And you see how it's all bunching up? It'll bunch up really beautifully together. Look at that, you get like a perfect shape top. So you pull it really tight. So now what you want to do is grab your needle again and go in the opposite side, just right in the very top. Do you see me really fussing where it's going in? No, because I'm not worried about that too much. So just making sure it stays nice and tight. Going in the opposite side, just like so. And because it's the same color, you're really not going to notice it. So pull through. And pull through beautifully, nice and tight. So now what you're going to do is we've just come out there. So I want to jump over and come in through this side. Just kind of like the 90 degrees in a different angle. So going in, coming out this side, okay, pulling it through, again beautifully nice and tight. And now I usually secure it 3 times. So I'm going to go in here, come out the other end, the other side, and pull it through. Okay. Now you've pretty well fixed the top of it pretty good. So what you're going to do is now you're going to stick your needle right down through the center. Okay, and now you want to turn your hat inside out. So the needle is a partial way sticking out so you can find it. So this is inside out. Okay, so pull your needle through. Okay, using the string to pull because you don't want to break your needle. So now we want to tie this string close. So just run it through underneath some material. Okay. And then go right through that loop. And do it one more time. Going into the loop. Cut your material. See, but you know it's the inside out anyway. You can see, and here is the completion of my Canadian hat baby tutorial. And because you'll see a slight angle going up the one portion of it, and that is because I had you stop and stop and go at, like I told you not to go around each post, just leave one blank every time you go around. And that's basically, if you did not do that, this seam would be right on the one side and you'll have one completely loose string. So this will actually eventually straighten out and it will look fabulous, and this is your baby's hat. A 45-minute tutorial, and voila.